Hey, this is Dan from Collectify. This is part 2 of Mastering Collectify, a series of demo videos to help you launch an NFT collection using our platform. Collectify is an operating system for NFTs. Using our comprehensive toolkit, running on 8 chains, you can create anything you need to launch and create and manage your NFT collection, from minting a variety of contracts to launching a whitelist giveaway and creating your own marketplace. The holder system lets you organize your holder data. And our new Soul AI function has some pretty exciting tools that are definitely worth playing with. Okay, so let's jump into part 2. Last week we covered the whitelist giveaway tool, and this time we're going to get down to the NFTs themselves. So the first part of this task is to create and upload the metadata, and I'm going to show you how to use our tools to do this. Then I'm going to give you a few tips for preparing this data, as it can be a pretty big task. So if you're wondering what that is, the metadata is essentially the information that gives your NFT its qualities. We usually call them traits, so we're just going to get into this and I'll show you as we go along. So first up, I want to create the collection name. I've been using a Notion document to keep track of this, so I can just copy and paste everything in. That's kind of a tip. All right, so I'm just going to go in and find the image. Cool. This is the unreveal image. It's the image that will appear before you reveal the collection, which you can do with the click of a button here once everything is linked up, okay? The URL for the data is here. This is important when it comes to building the contract, and we'll get into that next time. Okay, we have the collection name and everything there. We can just save it. Okay, getting into the important part, the metadata. So there are 2 ways to do this. The first way is to manually input it. So you create an entry, and we have a series of templates to allow you to do that. So here you can see in code form, the name, image. The image link is the image that will be representative of the NFT itself. And here are the attributes, the traits. Okay, so you have the trait type, which is fixed, and then you have the value, which is the individual quality. Using Azuki as the example, you can see they have, the different varieties that I'm pretty sure you're going to be familiar with. The templates vary. We offer video, music, photography, and other ones. I'm actually building a land project as my first project, so I would be using this one. This is the code forward way of putting in this data. It's good to understand this because it will allow you to check things in the future. Now, you can edit it within this, but my first tip is going to be that if you want to come at it from this approach, you want to use a software which will allow you to read it a bit more easily. I actually have VSC Code, Visual Studio Code. It's a pretty good app that will allow you to view it like this, and it will highlight things in such a way that becomes much easier to see. Okay, so I've already started to put in my data here. However, there is actually a slightly easier way to do this, which does not require coding. So we're going to go back, and we're actually going to use an API. Okay, so the API key for this set of metadata is here. We're going to copy this, and then we're going to go down to plugins and use a spreadsheet to input the metadata. So firstly, this is where that key goes. Then you'll need to download the Excel template that we have for the metadata. Now, I'm on Mac, so it appears in numbers. You should be able to find something compatible if you're not using Excel. And here it is in spreadsheet form, which is a bit easier to organize, especially when it comes to certain fixed qualities like the trait types, right? Of course, you can just infinitely copy, paste, drag, drop, etc., the fixed elements. And there are even ways to program in so that when you drag and drop down, for example, if you've organized your images properly, the file name will probably be identical except for the number at the end, probably matching the ID. There are ways to speed the process up when you're doing it this way through the Excel spreadsheet. So this is what I've done. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you another tip here. Using GPT, you can probably use Bard to do this as well. This is not platform specific, whatever is available to you and in your region, importantly. So to speed things up a bit, I have in my document planned things out, and this is kind of key when it comes to the metadata, right? So I've made up trait types already and the trait values. Okay, so I have domain, terrain. I have a series of rules for which one can match another one. And then there's another level down from that. And I have the number of how many should appear. Okay. And why this planning is important is because my collection is not meant to be 100% random. If you want to make it super random, that is actually a bit easier to organize. But that's not where I'm going with mine. Again, everything is going to be so specific. Okay. Now, here's how I use GPT to help me. I found it really useful to have a conversation about the different features and making sure certain things are balanced out, right? So I wanted balanced number of terrain, and just asking it to calculate things could speed things up. But here's where it gets really smart. I drop in the instructions of how to build the table for all of my metadata. I tell it about the trait type and then the value and what the values can be. Okay. And then when we get to the end, I ask it to give me a simple example so it doesn't take up too much space. I can assess what it's done, and I can ask it to make an amendment, and then I can ask it to create the full set of data following these rules. Okay, so as a result, I now have 50 rows metadata, and this didn't take very long at all. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet, just drop it in. Okay, and look at that. Perfect. You might want to reformat it a little bit if it doesn't come out as clearly as you wanted to, but everything matches up where it should be. So we're going to save it. If you're not using Excel, make sure you're exporting it as an Excel file. That is important. Okay. And then we're going to go back and upload the metadata. I prepared a slightly tidied up one already. Chosen file, import. I do want to import this one. It's been successful. Again, I just want to restate, make sure the API key is correct. Okay. Then we're going to go back to our project. And now you see it has 50 entries. So we're going to edit it. We're going to go in, and here we go. So this has all been derived from that sheet. If you want to bring in more, you can with the API, right? You go back to this, you use this in the same way that we did before. Then if you want, you can see the links and you can individually edit it. So now if you remember going back to the default one, it's filled out with all of our qualities that we wanted. Okay. So you can double check that if you want. And of course you can just copy it as well. If you want, you can manually add them. Now, if you want to export, you can export the whole set of metadata as a text file that will appear in that code layout, as you can see from the individual units. That's the metadata complete. The next step from here is actually going right into creating the contract. Let's jump in and have a look at how to get on with that. Okay. We're going to copy the metadata URL while we're in here. Now, if you want to make sure that you're creating the type of contract that is relevant to your project, that's a whole topic. And for the sake of what we're going to do for now, I'm just going to do a 21. We'll have a bit more discussion about that later. Firstly, I'm going to drop in the metadata URL because it's on my clipboard. And then I'm going to go to the contract name. So contract name is going to be the name of the project, or at least for the name of this collection of NFTs. And the symbol is going to be the short letter ticker symbol, right? So I'm going to call it that for now, coming from the name. 721 or 721A. A quick discussion on that. 721A was originally pioneered by Zuki when they first launched their set. It essentially reduces the gas cost when you mint multiple pieces. Now, I'm on BNB chain, so the gas costs are not particularly high, but I do actually want to allow each person to mint multiple of these, right? So I'm going to do 721A to keep gas costs down for my followers. There is plenty of resources out there if you want to find out more about the different contract types. So there's going to be 2,401 in my collection. let each person mint a maximum of 24, right? So each person will be able to get 1% of the supply. Seems a bit high, but I know we're in a bear market and it's not real. Not yet anyway. I want 10% royalties, and the mint price for the token is going to be in BNB for now. If you want to make it any custom token, obviously depending on your chain, you'll just need the contract address, right? And the time zone, everything is going to be dealt in. Obviously make it whatever is relevant for you. Let's just make it UTC for now. Now, going back to whitelists, if you recall, whitelists allow us to add a custom price, right? So our early fans and supporters, maybe they got on a special supercharged supporter whitelist, but you might want to give them a discount, right? And as well as that, you might want to give them an early start. So let's say I allow my whitelist hardcore fans to mint from midnight a day before everyone else. Okay. And then the mint ends on whenever. Okay. So let's say it's 1 week. We also allow an additional lucky whitelist on a first come first served basis, which you can use to create essentially 3 tiers of minting. This can help with congestion, especially if you're on Ethereum and especially if it's a big project and you've got a lot of fans, you might end up causing a bit of a gas spike. I mean, if people were here in 2021, you could remember the epic gas spikes of paying several $100s worth of ETH to, and this is 2021 ETH, to mint a JPEG, which may or may not have gone to 0 since then. So our public mint, let's say they pay a little more and they get it a bit later. Sorry guys, you should have joined the project and become fans a bit earlier. You know, with this stuff, it's going to really always depend on your project and your audience. So do really take the time to think about these things. The good news is you can edit this stuff after the fact up until you actually start minting. Okay, now we're going to create a collection logo. I'm going to use the same logo as my metadata. Next is the description and the collection introduction. This is the copy that appears on the mint page to give anyone who is not aware of what you're doing a brief summary of what is going on. This is a good place to clarify what people can and should not expect from your collection. This is, again, a little bit of personal advice. Make sure you're clear about managing expectations of followers. A lot of projects have been chewed up because they've overpromised or they haven't maybe specified what is actually going on in their project. Just make sure to take care of your collectors and they'll take care of you. That's just a personal thing from me. Okay. The URL of my site, Penge XYZ, and the NFT marketplace link. This links to another Collectify feature, which we're going to get into later. All right. You can set your own marketplace or you can direct it to an existing place such as OpenSea, for example, if you've already registered on that, and then you do your socials. And then we're going to create it. Now, this is the first time you have to pay for anything. It's just the gas fees. I'm on BNB chain, so it's not a big deal. Pay the $3 to create this contract for this example. We just have to, do the blockchain thing, wait for it. It shouldn't be too slow because we are on BNB. Excellent. The contract is now deployed, so we can actually go look at that. Okay. Here's the contract address on BSC Scan. It's now real. It's live. If you want, you can go and look at this on BSC Scan and you will see this. And it's even there on GitHub if you are into that. Okay. Great. And now here we are. We have a live contract for this project. And here's all the data. You can see the things that you can and cannot change. Mostly you can just change the mint on it. You cannot change the price though, after you've established it. All right. General info that can be updated. So this is where the whitelist stuff from before comes in. Once you've exported your whitelist, you can add it here. Either you can manually add addresses through a copy paste, or you can import an Excel sheet through this template. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. The second whitelist is under Lucky Whitelist. And the theme, if you recall from before, the customization, I think we used this one. I'm going to save that. Okay, let's go have a look at our mint page. All right, here it is. So social links, website, the contract address, token category, like all the information that you need is here. And here we go. You can see it's not begun yet. We've got 12 days until this begins, and you can mint up to 24. If you try and go over, it will essentially come up with an error warning saying you cannot mint this many. And of course, you have to put in your wallet address to check eligibility. This is great for if you want to allow your followers to check if they've made it on the whitelist. Perhaps you've oversubscribed. Again, if you aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, make sure you go back and check out that previous video. So I think that's going to about cover it. I think what we've done today then is we've gone over how to create the metadata and how to link that metadata to your first contract type, specifically in ERC721, more specifically a 721A. So next time we're going to talk about the next step, which in this case is going to be the holder function after we've launched our first wave of NFTs. There's some pretty cool information that you can collect and use in your project management here. Looking forward to sharing that with you. And that's going to be it for now. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.